All right, guys, I know we're having fun with the music here, but it is 6 o'clock, Tuesday night. What's the day today? The 28th of April, Tuesday night in beautiful Ubud, Bali. It's time for Bitcoin Filter. Every week we get together and do this, rain or shine. We got a little rain coming down here. So I think it's very cool that you guys came anyway. And let me kill this music here. Yeah, I know we're having fun with the music. Oh, you know what? You know what's going on here? It is 6 o'clock. We got a little reverb here. What's the day today? The 28th of April, Tuesday night in beautiful Ubud, Bali. It's time for Bitcoin Filter. Every week we get together and do this, rain or shine. We got a little rain. I don't know what to do. So, we're in a house of mirrors here. Anyway, and just want to kill this music here.
Just wait.
Just wait and see if it does. Oh, you know what? You know what's going on here?
It's like a start of a better year.
We're having technical difficulties here.
Yeah, me too.
Well, let's turn off the speaker, and we'll just have to rough it. Sorry, guys, we were in a house of mirrors. We had this reverb going on. Technical difficulties. That's never happened before. That's okay. We will press on. We've got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about Stellar. Last week we talked about Ripple. Now we're going to talk about Ripple's baby brother, Stellar. And there's a lot of drama around the Bitcoin/Stellar universe. Hey, John, welcome.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about some other things too. We'll talk about the price like we always do. But we're going to talk about something interesting called BitSim, which is a hardware Bitcoin wallet that fits in between your SIM card and your phone and turns any phone, whether it's a dumb phone or a smartphone, into a Bitcoin wallet. And that's a little outfit out of Hong Kong, right here in our own backyard. Yeah, let's kick things off. We got a few local announcements too, but let's get started here.
Bitcoin Filter 42.
Let me share my screen here. Yes.
Likes, everything.
Bitcoin, yeah, oh yeah, the answer is 42, yeah. I got that, JP. All right, so everybody should be looking at the screen now at home. Yes, we've been doing this for 42 weeks, not 42 weeks straight, but 42 weeks nonetheless. We usually do it for an hour, so that's about 42 hours. That's like a whole work week. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun. Let's see here. We're broadcasting live from Ubud, right across the street from the monkey forest. If you're ever in Bali and you're here on a Tuesday night, come join us in person. We do it every week at 6 o'clock right from Ubud. We basically have a conversation online through this Facebook group, the Bitcoins in Bali Facebook group. And throughout the week, people post their stories here in the group, and then we get together in person and talk about it. So if you want to discuss something with us in person, go ahead and post something in the group, and then we'll talk about it when we get together. What are we up to here in Bali? Well, we're trying to build a Bitcoin economy. You can see there's only about 37 or so merchants in Bali that accept Bitcoin as payment, but we're working hard on that. You can see it's still doing pretty well. They only have 10 merchants in Jakarta, and up in Singapore, only 41, and those are much bigger cities. So we're doing all right, and we're trying to make a difference right here locally. How do we do that? Well, partly by community outreach. We're going to have a Bitcoin 101 on May 9th, which we will start from ground zero, assume you know nothing, and by the end of about 3 hours, you'll have your own Bitcoin wallet. You'll have a little bit of Bitcoin in it, and we'll show you how to spend it and store it safely. So that's May 9th. Come join us for that. We also have this Bit Islands project. It's a part of the community outreach in general to try and turn Bali into a Bitcoin island. And you can go to bitislands.com and you can see all the merchants that accept Bitcoin. One of which is this Onion Collective, which is where we're going to go after the meeting tonight. We're going to head on over to the Onion Collective, where they're having open mic night, and they accept Bitcoin as payment. So you can buy some French fries, a hamburger. It's kind of bar food, but it's good. It's good bar food. So we'll be heading over there. We'll probably be over there around I don't know, 7:30 or so. So come join us there if you're not if you can't make it at 6. Come join us at 7:30 at the Onion. All right, let's look at the price. We are currently in Indonesia, so let's look at the Indonesian price. 1 Bitcoin is currently trading for 2,946,000 Indonesian rupiah, so just under 3 million. Incidentally, that was bitcoin.co.id, where you can. It's the largest Bitcoin marketplace in Indonesia, but they just made an announcement that they're going to start trading in Stellar. So if you know, this night tonight is all about Stellar. We're going to talk about Stellar, and if you're sold on Stellar, then you can go to bitcoin.co.id and pick some up if you like. They also announced that they're trading NXT, which Roberto was pretty happy to hear about. I don't have any NXT, but maybe I'll get some now that we can get it on the exchange here.
Support your friends.
Yeah, so check that out. Zero fee to boot. So, all right, what's the price in US dollars? This is what we're used to looking at. $227 US for 1 Bitcoin. Not the greatest. It's a little bit higher than last week, if I remember correctly. I think we were down near around 220. I know we got that low during the week. In fact, we dipped even just below 220 in the past week. So the price is kind of in the doldrums, but that's okay. We're undaunted. This number right here, if I just refresh the screen, that's the total number of Bitcoins in existence. So it's kind of fun. You can take this number and figure out what the total market cap is. I'm just going to take that number and multiply it by the price. What was it, 227? So all Bitcoins in existence are worth about 3.2 billion US dollars. Now, one of the interesting things about that, you know, it's usually around 3 billion, 3.2 billion, you know, right around the 3 billion mark. And one thing that we forget is that every day, new Bitcoins are born. Every 10 minutes, the entire network agrees on the state of the blockchain. And at that same time, 25 new baby Bitcoins are born, and they go to someone who's participating in the Bitcoin network. So if you do the math, 6 times, so in an hour, the blockchain agrees 6 times, and then 25 Bitcoins every time that happens in a 24-hour period, times the price, which is what, 227? So every day, about $800,000 worth of Bitcoin come into existence. So even though there are the Bitcoins are being diluted by $800,000 a day, we're still hanging in there around 3 billion in terms of total market cap. So it's easy to forget that all those Bitcoins are coming on the market every day, but the price is remaining steady nonetheless. So there is that demand, that maintained demand. Whenever the price stays the same day over day, you know that the entire ecosphere of Bitcoin has absorbed $800,000 worth of value. So something to keep in mind. All right, so let's take a look at the news. Have you guys seen this this video? You guys have heard about the earthquake in Nepal.
Yes.
Have you seen this? Check this out. This is pretty amazing. Let's see if I can Are we still getting reverb here on the? I'm just checking the sound here. Bear with me. It's one of those. Okay, I think we solved our sound problem. Let's go ahead and play this for you guys. This is pretty compelling stuff. This is pretty amazing. Let's see if I can. Oh shoot! Are we still getting reverb here on the? Oh, sorry, we're not going to have sound. But this is pretty amazing. This is one of the base camps at Everest. Guy has his phone, and this is like what it's like to be inside of an avalanche. Sorry, we don't have sound, guys.
You survived? It's all right. Yes, you did.
Yeah, you can, the aftermath, we could hear the audio. They're reaching out to find one another and grabbing one another's arms.
Really, all that you can hear is a roar and people saying the F word a lot.
Yeah, you can, you can see them. They're just kind of filming, and they haven't realized that they're in danger yet. And then you can basically kind of go through that ride with them where they realize, oh my God, there's an avalanche coming, and they try to take cover as best they can, but they've only got a few seconds to react. Really sad story. I think around 1,500 confirmed dead, and they're still rescuing people, as far as I know. But the reason I bring that up, it's really compelling video, and it's amazing that we have access to this kind of thing in this day and age. We can live it. We can almost live it, and modern technology helps us do that. The other cool thing that modern technology does is it helps us support those people when this kind of thing happens. And the Bitcoin and the people who are in the Bitcoin community are big into charity. And whenever something like this happens, you have a multitude of ways that you can participate using Bitcoin to help the people that this happens to. This is the Change Tip blog. These are friends of the show. These guys came a few months back and spent some time at the Hubud Villa. Got to be friends with these guys, and they basically set up a way to pay the Red Cross through this Change Tip interface. So I've got Twitter all queued up here, and I'm going to send a tweet. And basically, when I send this tweet, it's going to send $10 to the Red Cross for the Nepal earthquake. So I'll go ahead and send that now. The way Change Tip works is I have an account with Change Tip, and I have a little bit of Bitcoin with them. And then whenever I want to, if I come across a tweet that I like, I can tip that person by simply copying the Change Tip and telling them how much I want to send. Send $10 to the Red Cross, and they'll facilitate that transaction.
But does this only work with Twitter as a social media?
No, they work with Facebook and Reddit and GitHub and lots of others.
We join Change Tip and we can give to Nepal.
You can. The idea is that it makes it easy to give. And it makes it easy to give to anybody on Twitter. So if somebody gives you some very valuable information and you want to give them a little tip to show your appreciation, you can use Change Tip to do it.
So if you give Change Tip, if you give Bitcoin to someone who doesn't have it, we'll just kind of like prompt them to open an account?
Yes, yes. It basically they can go to Change Tip and redeem that, even if they don't have a Change Tip account at the time. So because it's tied in with the Twitter login, they can make sure that the funds go to that person. And if they never end up claiming the funds, I think after 6 months they revert back to your account. So, but it's a pretty neat interface, and they're doing. It sounds really simple, just tipping people on Twitter, but they've got really big plans around micropayments because it's very difficult to pay for anything less than $5 or so because the transaction costs are too high. But there's lots of things that people want to sell for less than $5 on the internet, so they're tackling that problem. Okay, the other thing that they did that was kind of interesting was they this girl, Jennifer Somerville, who works at Change Tip, is redirecting all of her tips to the Red Cross. So I'm going to go ahead and send some Bitcoin through that interface. I've got a brand new Airbits wallet here, and I'm going to send another $10 this way. And if you can see, it's the sending through here.
That's nice and fast.
Hello, Mona. And there, we just donated to the Red Cross for the purposes of the Nepal earthquake using Bitcoin. So very cool. If you guys want to donate too, you can. I'll post this link, and you can donate through this interface as well. So pretty slick. All right, moving along. This is a story that was posted by Steven, and obviously TechCrunch must have realized and watched last week's episode, because we went through CoinDesk's Q1 report on Bitcoin. And so they followed up with their own synopsis, you know, after undoubtedly after they watched our show last week. And
They just have better graphic artists.
they do. We're low budget here at Bitcoins in Bali. But I'll just reiterate, you know, they're saying mostly the data is net positive, showing an increase in total wallets and investment. Now, one of the things, you know, TechCrunch isn't all the way into Bitcoin, and there's a little nuance there. More wallets does not necessarily mean more people, because I can have 10,000 wallets. I can open up 10,000 wallets on my computer and send 1 Bitcoin to each of them if I had that many. That would be cool if I had that many. And but I'm still one person. So it doesn't necessarily mean that more people are using Bitcoin. I'd like to think that's true, but it's not necessarily true. In fact, more and more people are using a new kind of wallet that generates a new address for every transaction. So that means that any one person could have hundreds of addresses, and there's software that manages those addresses in the background. And well, there's a one-to-many relationship, if that's the case. They also chose to highlight, just like I did, this disturbing trend, although there's lots to be happy about within Bitcoin, lots of venture capital, lots of record-breaking numbers of transactions. But this is the one that's really kind of a bummer, the number of new Bitcoin accepting businesses added each quarter. You can see there's a definite downward trend. We're trying to reverse that trend here in Bali by approaching local businesses and educating them on how to accept Bitcoin. But you know, I think this kind of thing ebbs and flows. I don't think it means that Bitcoin is over. It just means, you know, a lot of times when the price is down, the interest wanes. We see that in these meetings as well. When the price is up, lots of people show up, and then when the price is down, it's like tumbleweeds blowing through here. So anyway.
Hey, I remember that.
JP always comes though. She is the rock.
I look like a
All right. Moving on. Okay. This is a very cool story, and these guys are out of Hong Kong, and this guy that's doing this is a member of our group. So maybe he's even watching. So let's hope he is. This is super cool technology, and the ramifications that we probably don't even fully understand. What it is, well, actually, I'm going to let him describe it. Oh, you know what? I don't have any audio, so I can't share the video with you. Oh, it's a bummer. All right, I'll try and do it justice, and I'll post the link to the YouTube video where he describes what it is. So essentially, they have created this. They can put 2 or more chips on a flat piece of what looks like cellophane, and they can put that in between the SIM and the phone, and you can host a secure Bitcoin wallet on those chips, and the chip itself can interact with the SIM card and the phone's network. It's also NFC capable, so you can, you know, Apple Pay is doing this really cool thing where you can just wave your phone near the terminal and pay for your Starbucks. This supposedly, allegedly, does the same thing, but you don't need an Apple phone. You can use, you could introduce this technology, in Nigeria, where all they have is feature phones, they call them, basically dumb phones, those little Samsung $25 phones, not a smartphone. And you can equip those people with a Bitcoin wallet, a feature-rich Bitcoin wallet that interacts with their SIM. Yeah, it's a real disruptive technology. It's really exciting. I'll encourage you to go back and look. Let me see, what did I highlight here? It's a zero footprint SIM that sits between the original SIM and the carrier's cell phone and interposes SIM commands between the original SIM and the phone. And of course, the phone makers and the chip makers are not happy about this. Thin SIMs have been denounced as a security risk by phone carriers. That is likely due to their potential to disrupt the carrier's business model more than to risk for consumers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, sometimes, we were just talking about charity giving. Sometimes you'll see an advertisement, if you want to give to this charity, text this number to this number and we'll send $10 and put it on your cell phone bill. Well, cell phone carriers make a lot of money doing that. And they take a large percentage. When you give using a text message, a lot of that money goes to the carrier and doesn't make it all the way to the cause that you're talking about. So yeah, it's well, they in a lot of cases they have a monopoly. How many telecom providers, mobile providers do we have here in Indonesia? 2 or 3. So yeah. Hey, Stephen. So the competition is such that they can get away with that kind of thing. But it's really cool when something like this comes along and changes the game. This was the link that Stephen, I think, posted, this BitSim.
I know him really well. Hold on.
The Leon?
The maker, yeah.
Yeah.
He's in Bitcoin Zimbabwe too.
Yeah, I've seen him pop up in the group. And I think, I think he was in Singapore when we were there. But anyway, really super cool technology. We'll have to get him to send us one. We can test it out. Do a little third world Indo field work with this thing.
Yeah, I think I'll get one sent soon, and I'll ask him for more. But they had some troubles with the ones that they were going to, like a few months ago, he was going to send me one, but they ran into some trouble. I'm not sure what it was. So
Any
remake them.
And I was curious. I'd love to ask him, and I don't know if you know. I don't want to put you on the spot. What the unit cost is? I mean, is it something like $20 or something like $3 or?
I think it's more in the $3 or $2 or $1.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's really just a and
Right. I'm hoping that's the case. If so, I mean, it could really change things. Super cool. All right. What's next? This is the video that I was going to show you, but we don't have audio, so I'll skip it. All right. It's time to talk about Stellar. This is stellar.org. What is Stellar? Well, I think this is actually a really cool moniker. Stellar is public infrastructure for money. And, it's a fork of Ripple. We talked about Ripple last week. Ripple is a way, not only is it a currency, but it's a network and protocol for exchanging currencies using a trust network. They came up with the name Ripple because basically if you have circles of trust and those circles interlace with other circles of trust, interlace with other circles of trust, and you can use the trust network to clear transactions. And Stellar works in much the same way. Like I said, it's a fork of Ripple. So they started with the same code base at a certain time. They also started with the same developers and co-founders, which we'll get into in a little bit. But it was a fork, and then there are some significant changes under the hood that were made, and I'm going to try and make those obvious as best I can. So one of the knocks on Ripple is that the initial Ripple currency, which is called, what is it called, Stephen? XRP, was pre-mined, meaning that lots of Ripple tokens were in existence before the public at large got involved. So if the criticism is that if if it becomes useful, if the value of that token goes way up, then a lot of that value goes to the people that originally did it. And there's been a lot of pump and dump schemes for other coins, and the community is really sensitive to pre-mining. If you show up with a coin and you're like, well, 80% of it already exists and me and my friends own it, then your coin will likely not succeed. I don't know if that's the reason why Jeb McCaleb, who is one of the original founders of Ripple, who broke away from Ripple and started Stellar, I don't know if that's the reason why he broke away, but I think it had something to do with it. So Stellar took a different approach. Essentially, they gave a bunch of Stellar away. And I've got about 490 Stellar that I didn't pay anything for. I got it because I think some people gave it to me, and I got a little bit for signing up. And
They did that Facebook thing. If you log into your Facebook account, you automatically got.
Right. You got Facebook.
490.
And Stellar in Indonesia was huge. But what people were doing was setting up false Facebook accounts, Facebook accounts, and then signing up for Stellar and getting their free Stellar for their Facebook account. And there was a few shenanigans there. But Stellar survived, and they're still offering to send me some Stellar if I log in with Facebook. Of course, a lot goes along with associating your Facebook with your money or value. And from that day forward, once you link your Facebook account, I think you can presume that your financial transactions are being tracked to your person. We're not really in danger of that now. Stellar, I don't think is going gangbusters yet. But anyway, there's a continuing debate on associating identity with money, and there's a real utility to that in some instances, and then in some instances it's absolutely not what you want. So anyway, they're going down that road. Here are the things that make Stellar interesting from their point of view. This is a marketing slide, but they call it open and decentralized. That's pretty much true of Bitcoin, and well, maybe not with Ripple. We can talk about that in a minute. Transactions are confirmed in seconds. One of the knocks on Bitcoin is you need about 60 minutes if you really want to be sure that Bitcoin funds have left someone else's account and are now in your account. So if you want to buy a candy bar, a lot of vendors are they're kind of taking the risk, and the risk is quite low, at least at this stage, that a transaction will go wrong. But really, you need, if you're doing any substantial value, I wait at least 10 minutes before I, agree that the transaction is successful. And if you're really paranoid, you're supposed to wait about an hour. It could take even longer. So Ripple and Stellar claim to solve that problem. Part of the way that they do that is they don't use the mining and the computing power that Bitcoin rely on. So it uses a lot less power, and it uses a lot less, it basically approaches the security problem in a different way. It's a trustful system, not a trustless system. It uses those circles of trust. So you choose the nodes that you trust and that you choose to deal with, and then those nodes have their nodes that they trust and choose to deal with, and the transactions propagate through the Stellar network based on those circles of trust. So you don't need all of that computing power behind the scenes securing the network, is my understanding. And because that's the case, you can confirm transactions way more quickly than you can with Bitcoin. So that's an interesting problem that Bitcoin has, and this is a proposed solution. The other thing that's really interesting about Stellar, and I think this is true of Ripple as well, is there's a decentralized network. Stellar automatically performs any necessary currency conversions at the lowest possible rate. Now, I haven't used Ripple or Stellar to do this, but I know that Ripple, now that they've gotten involved with the legacy banking system, is being used by banks in the Midwest to clear their transactions without having to go through the big banks in New York. and they can do it at a much lower cost, and that's based on this ability for them to use the network to do clearances and to have this decentralized network. So I don't know much more than that, and I don't know if anyone in the room has that experience with it, but it's, you know, Bitcoin and basically all currencies have needed a decentralized exchange for a long time, and when we have one that's really working and working well, and you need a large number of people using the network, I think, for it to actually perform the way they probably like. But when we have a decentralized, imagine you don't have to go to a money changer and pay through the nose in fees and a crappy exchange rate. Imagine that you know that you're getting a good exchange rate because you're connecting with someone through a peer-to-peer network like Ripple or Stellar. That's a pretty neat idea.
I can add to that.
Sure.
I think that's what they're all about. Is transacting. I mean, we're nearly all about is transacting currencies.
So that is the value proposition.
Yeah. So you'd have a Bitcoin. Well, you'd have your Ripple account. You'd have your Bitcoin Stellar account, or your Bitcoin account, and any national currencies. And then you can go into the marketplace and be buying and trading currencies. That's how they get this lowest rate possible. Is that it's the consensus, or it's market making.
Right.
For currency exchange.
Yeah. I did a little bit of reading, and I understand they have a distributed order book. So an order book is something that's usually centralized on an exchange, and you have all your people that want to buy a certain currency and all the people that want to sell a certain currency, and there's an order book. You've got people on both sides, and when two prices match, then you've got to trade, and it happens. But a decentralized network has to maintain a decentralized order book. So there's someone in Iowa that wants to buy, Bitcoin for dollars, and there's someone euros for Singapore dollars, and there's this, this universe of people that want to trade something for something, and to maintain that order book in a decentralized way is pretty amazing.
How does average Joe figure out which nodes to trust?
That's a good question. I don't know how how that works. Perhaps because they're using Facebook, you have your Facebook friends, and you know that if you know your friend and your friend knows another friend, and this friend of a friend wants to trade, you can facilitate the trade because there's a web of trust there. There are people involved that then you can trust them.
Right. So when you open your account with either Stellar or Ripple, you can start adding your friends as well too in there. And then so between us, like even if we all have Ripple accounts, we could just trade or add each other's accounts into each other's, and then that's our trust network. It's just everyone around us here. And a few other people that we meet along in other businesses or exchanges, we can add them.
Yeah.
They're like kind of like public marketplace where people are like advertising themselves as trusted sellers with like ratings and stuff, like earning trust.
That's a good question.
That's the idea. Well, it's not really, it's
It
not
hasn't.
really a transaction platform in that way so much at the moment. They're still having a hard time finding what their best use case scenario is. But they're getting there, right? I think that's what Joe talked about, is what they're trying to do.
Yeah. It's they've got a bit of a chicken and the egg problem, because it's not useful unless a lot of people are using it, but a lot of people don't come if it's not useful. So, and that's why they have this big, like Stellar had this big giveaway, and it's kind of a tricky problem. All cryptocurrencies have this problem of initial distribution. Like it seems, a lot of people knock Bitcoin because a few of the early adopters have just hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and they're like, oh, that's not fair. They have all this money now, but there's actually not a really easy way to give that initial coin away, because if someone would have approached you in 2009 and said, hey, I've got this great new currency, do you want to get out your computer and your phone and figure out how to use this so I can give you some? People might not give you the time of day, So it's a tricky problem. All right, let's see, what else do I have to show you here? Okay, so these are the kind of the talking points that they say Stellar makes it unique. It's a decentralized network, so this is a centralized network where you can see there's a single point of failure. Here they're talking peer-to-peer, circles of trust, and a decentralized network to basically be more robust and less subject to the problems with centralization. There's a distributed ledger, just like with Bitcoin. Consensus now, actually I'll show you this in a minute, but the Stellar, when they forked Stellar, they claimed that Ripple had a problem with their consensus algorithm. And consensus is important with these systems because everybody has to agree when I send some money from my wallet to your wallet, the entire network has to agree that that has actually taken place. And so the consensus algorithm is very important, and it gets into some pretty sophisticated mathematics to make that happen. And Stellar swapped out the consensus mechanism from that which was used in Ripple. They have a Stanford mathematician / computer scientist that came up with something supposedly better, although I'm not smart enough to say yes or no. Gateways, trust, and credit. So this is again referring to the people in the network and the network of trust that the algorithms use rather than brute force computing power. They're using the trust of social networks to validate what's going on. Gateways are simply entities that people trust to hold their deposits and issue credits into the Stellar network for those deposits. They act as a bridge between different currencies in the Stellar network. All money transactions in the Stellar network occur in the form of credit issued by gateways. Now, this is interesting because Ripple has gateways as well. And because they have gateways and because they interlace with the legacy financial system, they've got to have controls in place. And actually the Ripple network can, through these gateways, can freeze your funds just like a bank.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at a news story in a minute. But these gateways are suddenly you've got people involved, and people change their mind, or people try to control other people, and you're talking about trust and using trust. One of the elementary inventions of Bitcoin was that it was trustless, that anybody could participate, and it didn't matter if they were a bad actor. If they were a bad actor, they just get ignored. And here we're moving back into a trust-based system. And at least with Ripple, I don't know how Stellar addresses this, but at least with Ripple, they've got a way to freeze funds. We'll talk about that in a minute, but kind of defeats the purpose. All right, read the white paper. I did. This is kind of a monster. The Stellar Consensus Protocol. This guy, David Messier, talks about, it's pretty compelling. Financial infrastructure is currently a mess of closed systems. That's definitely true. Gaps between the system mean that transaction costs are high. The money moves slowly across political and geographical boundaries. This friction has curtailed the growth of financial services, leaving billions of people underserved financially. So does that ring a bell? I mean, this is what Bitcoin was supposed to do, right? Obviously, Stellar and every other altcoin out there thinks that they can do it better than Bitcoin, and this is obviously a really smart guy. And who knows? We may see the demise of Bitcoin based on the problems that he outlines in this paper. I encourage you to take a look for yourself. It's at least the introduction and the conclusion are readable by mere mortals, and if you find it compelling, might make sense to pick up a little bit or learn more at least. We talked about that already. Here's the Wikipedia entry for Stellar. Stellar is a payment network, they're calling it. So they're not calling it a currency or a token or anything like that. But you can read a little bit of the background. It's pretty pretty short. This is a more human digestible version of what Stellar is. So let's take a look at Stellar. I've got 494 Stellar, for which I did nothing. Somebody gave me this quite a while ago, and I don't know what else I did, what kind of tricks I performed to get these Stellar. This is the interface. I have no idea how, where my private keys are, or if there even are private keys. I just have this kind of wallet that's a web-based wallet, and it's pretty cool interface. I can send. I'm going to send Steven some Stellar. Steven's sitting right over there, across the room. Was it Network Coin?
Yeah. I sent you my password.
Yeah. I'm not going to log in though. I'm just gonna show these guys what it looks like on the front end. You can let me know.
An account. I thought you needed to log in.
You can let me know if you receive these, but I'll send you 1/5 of my Stellar hoard. How about that? I think that's worth like maybe, I think $4.94. Last time I looked was worth about $1.30. So I'm sending you maybe 20 cents. That's okay. You can buy me a beer, Steven. I'll send you 20 cents. You can buy me a beer. 100 confirmed transaction. We got a cool little rocket ship.
Oh, I love the rocket.
It's so fun to spend money on the internet. See these things happening. Transaction cleared. So whiz bang boom. Now I've got presumably less than $4.94. Let's refresh that.
No, it's magic money.
You spend it, it's still there. So this should say 300 something, right?
I think that actually happened to me with one of my credit cards. I spent here, it just never showed up.
Really?
Yeah, not like something.
Bank error in your favor
Yeah, finally.
in real life.
HSBC is really good at bank errors.
Yep, there you go.
Yes, well, in the introduction to that, it said current banking is a hodgepodge of systems, and that really is true. I came from that industry. I can attest. It's you go there and you think that because it's money, it must be just rock solid, and then you really scratch your head when you look under the covers and you see how crazy it is. You were having problems with PayPal, right? I mean, it's it could be the technology, but it could be just they're trying to interact with a bunch of old systems. The company I worked for had such old software that they just didn't dare touch it because there were millions of dollars flowing through it every day. So there we have an updated balance, 394. Now Stephen has that. And if you can find a place to buy me a beer with those 100 Stellar, I will jump for joy. What kind of beer? Indonesian beer.
I won't be able to log in.
Oh, okay.
I don't have my Google account.
All right, you can let us know later. So
if anyone wants some, we can talk about it in the group.
Yeah, if you want to get involved,
I have some giveaways.
we can
from
share.
Stellar that they've given me some
Oh,
coin
really?
giveaway. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So where does Stellar fit in the grand scheme of things? Here's the 80-pound gorilla Bitcoin. This is coinmarketcap.com. There's Ripple at number 2. And in terms of market cap, there's Stellar at number 5.
That is
All
fabulous.
Stellar is worth about $12 million. So
In how long? A year?
I think it's been around since July of 2014, if I'm not
Not even a
mistaken.
year.
Let's take a look. I think I've got here's the 180 day chart. I think if we go back a whole year, yeah, here in July is when it started.
Not even a year.
So yeah, you can see there was a big surge here in December. I don't know what corresponded to that. Yeah.
Facebook giveaway.
Yeah, quite possibly. Here's another look. This is interesting because one of the things that Stellar prides itself on is developer outreach, and they've got a really, quote, stellar API for their developers. And this is CoinGecko, which is a little bit like CoinMarketCap, only they look at other variables like the market cap is just one way they rank the coins, but they also look at liquidity, developer interest, which also includes how many updates to the software exist, what kind of community is around it, and the public interest. They have different ways of measuring those things. But Stellar falls down the list on these, mostly because of this poor developer rating. So I don't know how many friends they're making in the developer community, or how well developers are taking up Stellar, but it seems to me that that's kind of an Achilles heel, at least for the moment. So interesting. Here's some of the charts. Just another look. So one Stellar is worth 0.0001 Bitcoin. So I know it's hard to start thinking about things on the right side of the decimal place, but I'm used to it, but it took me a while. All right, so let's get into the, now there's a few other articles here, which, yeah, Bitcoin Magazine, Technology Review, which comes out of MIT, faster and safer. Stanford professor claims to have invented a Bitcoin-like system that can handle payments faster with more security. I don't know if it's more secure. Let's see. I think I highlighted some things that address that. The new SCP system also relies on people running software that communicates over the internet, but trust is not enforced through mining. Instead, each person running the software must identify a few other trusted participants to correctly apply the cryptographic rules to validate transactions. The security proposition of Bitcoin is that people who invested in mining infrastructure can be trusted, but that may not be true, he says. Here I can choose for myself who I trust. Now, that's not really true. The security proposition of Bitcoin doesn't necessitate trusting anybody. Now, if one of those miners got more than 51% of the network, then you'd have to trust them. But gaining 51% of the network would require hundreds of millions of dollars in computing power, and thus that's where the security comes in. It doesn't make sense for anybody to spend that kind of money to repudiate the Bitcoin system. You'd make more money just mining Bitcoins. So you don't have to trust anybody. That's the whole point of Bitcoin. And with Stellar and also with Ripple, we're going back to a system where they're saying, hey, maybe you should trust somebody, and maybe trusting somebody is a better way. Neither way is better or worse. It's just kind of a difference. Certainly, a trust-based network is less expensive in terms of electricity, but I don't know if it's more secure or not. Now we'll get to the fun part. So this guy, Jed McCaleb, he originally started Mt. Gox, by the way. So he's got that history going for him. He then started Ripple, and now has subsequently started Stellar. And Ripple and Stellar are having a public spat, which is really, really interesting to watch. Let's see here, where to begin? Jed McCaleb, the founder of both Ripple Labs and Stellar, and two of McCaleb's family members were named in a complaint. Basically what happened was this guy, Jed McCaleb, said that the consensus mechanism in Ripple is bad, and all of the Ripples were pre-mined and it's centralized. So I'm out of here. I disagree with Ripple. Even though I founded it, I'm out. And so he did that. And then he subsequently put well over $1 million worth of Ripple on the market at the same time. So basically that harms the value of a currency. When that much of a currency hits the open market at a single time, it drives the price down, right? And so what happened, the folks at Ripple Lab spent $1 million and bought all of that XRP. They bought it, and then they filed a claim with Bitstamp, who was the intercessor in the transaction, and said, hey, wait, don't allow Jed to leave with this money that we've just paid him for this XRP. We bought it because he was sabotaging our network. And Bitstamp listened to Ripple and froze Jed McCaleb's funds. So
But
here,
that was under legal. It's a little bit different.
well, it's yeah. I mean and please chime in. It's my understanding, that Bitstamp is in the business of trading currencies, and they facilitated this transaction. And as soon as there was a complaint from the folks at Ripple, they had no choice but to legally intercede in the transaction and freeze the funds. And one thing that's really interesting about this is, Ripple didn't sue Jed McCaleb, and Jed McCaleb didn't sue Ripple. I didn't even know this kind of thing existed. I don't know if there's any lawyers in the room, but they had to file an interpleader filing. This is a lawsuit where you're just in between two people that are fighting, and you're the one this arbiter, this unwilling arbiter between these two opposing parties.
You turn to the court and you say, no.
Yes, and presumably you've got all kinds of expensive lawyers everywhere, charging you God knows how much per hour to sort this out. But what I find interesting is, Bitcoin has this trustless aspect, and it never asks anybody to trust anybody, both in terms of being nefarious or in terms of being a nice guy, right? You just don't, that whole realm of human just fuzziness gets taken out of the equation. And whenever human beings and control mechanisms and levers of power are reintroduced into people's dealings, all of a sudden you've got to hire lawyers. And then that's expensive, and it changes the economics of the currency or whatever you're talking about, so that, again, we're in an area where 2 billion people can't afford to have a bank account. I mean, when you've got that kind of overhead associated with economic transactions, when lawyers have to get involved, the costs skyrocket. And all those nice things that that very smart person from Stanford put in the introduction to his white paper, serving underprivileged people, goes right out the window when you've got a team of lawyers, on the payroll. No offense to lawyers, but they have their place. But it's the cool thing, the invention of Bitcoin, by design, takes those people out of the equation. Granted, it lets the chips fall where they may. If somebody steals my Bitcoin, I can't call up PayPal. I can't call up a court system. I could call a court system, but who do I sue? Right. It's a double-edged sword, but if you make people personally responsible, it's a lot less expensive. And that's the upshot for me when it comes to things like this. There's more news stories here where it talks about Ripple directs Bitstamp to freeze funds of former co-founder Jed McCaleb. And this is kind of this is a pro-Bitcoin, Cointelegraph. Ripple, the so-called decentralized payment network, has frozen funds worth more than $1 million that belonged to the company's former co-founder, Jed McCaleb. This is a real mess because he turned around. He didn't cash out. He turned around and bought Stellar. So before they could, I think they froze his account, but he still did some trades before they did that. So I don't know if he can't withdraw it or what the deal is, but it's interesting. This is another kind of a tilted news piece. All that is required for Ripple to freeze user funds is to notify the nodes of suspicious or unusual activity. So we're right back to banking. But in the interest of fairness, there's another article here that makes a kind of a nuanced point. The Ripple protocol allows each gateway to decide its own policy. So users have a choice between using the freeze or no freeze gateway. So if you're using Ripple and you were talking about how do I choose other nodes to trust, You could make it your own policy that you only trust nodes that don't exercise the option to freeze funds. But you might not realize you want to do that until it's too late. But anyway, in my opinion, freezing funds is antithetical to cryptocurrency. But any other comments or?
It's a temptation anytime you control access, starting with a road that you can collect tolls on. Inevitably, if there's a road through which people must pass, if you can control it, people try and do it.
Yeah, if there's any human element in there, there's always a yeah but situation. And actually, that's actually what the global financial system is going through right now. You've got the people with the levers of power. It's a small number of people at a central bank in the United States, and they are doing everything they can to exert control over a natural system, which is really the way millions and millions of individuals interact with one another on a day-to-day basis, exchanging money. They're trying to exercise their control over that system, and it's got us in a real mess. So probably best of intentions, and also very, very smart people at the Fed. That's obvious, but it's human beings. I mean, even in the name of doing something good, we can screw things up. It's an interesting idea to take the human factor out and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, transparency, if it's authentic, is really a potential way for us to manage this, right? If everyone can see everything that goes on.
Right, JP. It's fair. It's transparent. It may not be in your favor at any given time, but at least you know the rules. And there's something really beautiful about that. And it makes me wonder how the world will be different when the entire planet is using a fair system, a transparent system, a system that works the same whether you're a primary dealer bank or not. It works the same. I think
you're a shopkeeper in Africa.
Yeah. Well, I really believe that money and the way that it works affects how human beings interact with one another, how we treat one another, and I'm anxious and curious to see how culture changes when money changes. So,
wasn't it in Iceland where they kind of like put a bunch of bankers in jail or something?
Exactly. Yeah.
They did. They let banks go bankrupt, and they prosecuted the bankers that were responsible.
And politicians.
Yeah, and it was painful for them at first. Their credit rating was in the toilet, and they had all kinds of repercussions from the rest of the world and their interface between them and the rest of the world financially. But it wasn't that long ago, and they're back on their feet.
Took 3 years.
Yeah, it's like, rip the Band-Aid off and let the healing begin. The rest of the world took a different tack, and in 2008 we had our crisis, but nothing significant has changed since then. It's arguably much worse, and we don't know what the end result will be just yet.
So I'm curious, that obviously started from government. Has there ever been any private sector attempts at holding bankers culpable? Like someone trying to sue a bank or something?
That's a good
yeah.
question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has happened. Banks, have a lot of lawyers, and that's an expensive proposition. But individuals, instead of suing the bank, you can just stop being their customer. You can look for alternative options and take your business elsewhere. And if everybody stopped, took a look, made a rational decision, and took personal responsibility, then whatever does happen will be a lot less painful. So
I went to high school, and the school I went to had a bunch of bankers. It was in London. And Bob Diamond, Barclays CEO?
Oh, Jamie Dimon?
No, Bob Diamond.
Oh, I wonder if they're related.
Maybe. He used to be the CEO of Barclays, and he was held accountable for like some interest rate fixing. I was at a party at his house. I was friends with his daughter in high school, and I somehow ended up in his office, and his computer was open and like logged in and stuff. And I was like, I should do something stupid.
Transfer $1 million.
Drunken Facebook posts.
Yeah.
If I just opened his email account, I maybe could have.
Open up his Facebook and just go, I think it's time I came out to all you. It's been
Oh,
years.
yeah,
I've been
right.
keeping this secret.
The
Send.
problem is that a lot of this stuff is regulated, so even if you could get the information, it would just be like a sort of public outcry rather than.
Well, we're living in a different world now. I used to have the same password on all my accounts. I'd, leave my computer, walk away from my computer, and it would just be open for anyone to do. And I think even once upon a time, one of my friends posted something in my name on Facebook, and it was embarrassing. But these days, well, it's just different. At least for me, I'm much more conscientious. I don't use the same password for any login whatsoever. I have a way to encrypt my emails and encrypt my files. And in fact, we were thinking about doing a skill share. I don't know if anyone would be interested in learning how to encrypt information on your thumb drives,
Yes.
on your hard drive, how to send a private email amongst your family. Okay. I'm seeing some nods, so maybe we'll do that. Okay. Well, we're just on the hour, so I think we'll leave it at that. And any last things people want to bring up, or points or news items that we didn't talk about that you're interested in talking about? Okay. Well,
Another plug to use Bitcoin to help people in need in Nepal and Chile.
yeah. Oh, did something happen in Chile too? Yeah.
Volcano.
Giant
Volcano.
eruption.
Oh man.
People were
It's crazy.
being rained on with fire and sulfur as far as away as in Argentina.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. So use Bitcoin to help.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll post those links on how you can, maybe we'll find a link to help people in Chile with Bitcoin as well. I'll also post the links for how to send more Bitcoin to the Nepal earthquake. And we'll do this again next week, but in the meantime, buy some Bitcoins, spend some Bitcoins, and replace your Bitcoins. And yeah, together we can maybe make this economy happen. We're going to help that economy happen right now, by the way. We're heading over to the Onion Collective, where they accept Bitcoin. And it's open mic night, so I don't know if anyone's feeling feeling like getting up on stage. But anyway. All right, so we'll leave it there. Until next week, we'll see you online at the Bitcoins in Bali Facebook group. See you next week.
Yay. Thank you.